So with our agenda today, we were looking at what are management rights and how they normally form, assignments, variations. We're going to look at common complaints, practical ways to work with your resident unit managers, and we're going to look a little bit at worst case scenarios. What happens when it all goes wrong? So moving on first, and one of the things we wanted to focus on, and the two things to really emphasise today is, what do you as a committee do when you get an opportunity when a new caretaker or a new resident unit manager is being requested to enter into your complex? And what we call that is an assignment of management rights. Let's start back from the beginning. What is management rights and how is it defined? Management rights is not something that your body's corporate created initially through you as the committee. It's actually something which was created by the original developer, and the management rights package normally consists of a letting agreement, a caretaking agreement, and a lot within which usually the on-site manager lives. Regarding the letting component of that, that's not a significant component in which the body corporate has a lot of say, because it really looks as the letting agent having a full real estate agent's license and entering into that contractual relationship with an individual lot owner to let their lot. So the body corporate, really the only thing that you're giving pursuant to that agreement is an exclusive right for them to use the common property to run that letting business. All right? But there will be a formal letting agreement which gives that. It might be separate to your caretaking agreement, or it could be combined in one document. But it's very important for you as the committee to read through that letting agreement and understand the terms and conditions of it. Exactly the same applies with respect to the main component of it, which is the caretaking agreement. Caretaking is exactly what it sounds like it should be. It is the body corporate handing over a lot of those responsibilities pursuant to the BCCMA, the Body Corporate Community Management Act, that it would have for repair and maintenance of its common property, and engaging someone independent as an independent contractor to go through the property on behalf of you as the committee, because the caretaker follows your directions as the committee, in reviewing and looking at the common property and reporting to you any potential repairs, the cleaning of that common property, and the taking care of that common property and making sure it's in a good and serviceable condition. That's a bit of a general summary. You will find in each of your caretaking agreements, they should be drafted specifically for your buildings. When we look at them, we know that a lot of them aren't. For example, we've seen a whole range of caretaking agreements which are meant to be for residential buildings, used for commercial buildings. And they talk about the caretaker cleaning a swimming pool. Well, the commercial building doesn't have a swimming pool. Those things should be tidied up in caretaking agreements when and if you as the committee have an opportunity to do that with your caretaker. Remember, it's a negotiable agreement, but it is agreement which is a strict legal agreement that binds your body corporate. All right? It is very important for you as committee members and all committee members to read through those caretaking agreements and understand the terms of them completely. Not vaguely, but completely. Right? Particularly timeframes, terms, options. Have they been exercised? What are the duties? What are the responsibilities? And what's your responsibility as the committee? I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail. An assignment of management rights gives you as the committee an opportunity to sit down with the incoming purchaser, so the potential person who wants to come in and be the caretaker for your building, to talk to them and set out what is your committee's expectation pursuant to the terms of the caretaking agreement. And there are a number of things that should be done as a result of that. There is a myth out there which has been created for a long time and over the years of dealing with caretaking agreements, that a committee is not entitled to say no to an incoming purchaser. Who's heard that? There is a perception out there that a body corporate committee must do whatever the on-site manager or the caretaker says, that it's their agreement, that it's their responsibility to manage the agreement, and that when they sell it, that you just have to deal with that and accept that. That's not true. There is only one part of the BCCMA legislation that is really well drafted and tightly drafted, and that's the assignment provisions, where it actually gives the committee some power to negotiate and talk to this incoming purchaser and set the expectations in accordance with the agreement, but having a clear understanding of what the expectations is. It also gives you as the committee an opportunity to deal with issues that may have been outstanding with the outgoing caretaker. For example, we often have committees come to us seeking advice of a performance review of their current caretaker and saying, look, we're concerned with our caretaker because we give him an instruction or her an instruction or the company an instruction, and they don't follow through and clean up, you know, the garbage and litter that's been in the gardens, or weed the gardens properly, or mulch the gardens, whatever the key area is that the committee is focusing on the time pursuant to the agreement. The committee is entitled to ensure that the common property is brought up to an appropriate standard, the standard as is specified in that agreement, before it assigns, before it gives its consent to the assignment. So if you, the committee, are going through this performance review process with an outgoing caretaker, and during that process they make a decision where they might wish to assign it or sell, or they put it on the market and the contract is sold, that gives you, the committee, an opportunity to complete that performance review process prior to the date of settlement of the caretaking agreement. Does that make sense? You must remember that, as I said, this is one part of the legislation which is actually drafted quite keenly and in favour of the body corporate. Your job as a committee, and it is a committee decision, that's the important thing to focus on. It's not a lot owner meeting, not a lot owner decision in a general meeting, but it's to give consent. And that consent, there's 5 key areas that are set out in the legislation, and they deal with character. What is the character of the incoming purchaser? Character includes a police search. Has there been an indictable offence? Has there been concerns regarding previous employment? Is this person of good standing and character and capable of carrying out the duties and responsibilities? Experience, financial circumstances. If it's a company structure, we can look at the company arrangements, the partnership, the trust documents behind that to make sure that there's a financial ability of the caretaker to actually, when they're paid the salary, to use that money doing the hours and carrying out the caretaking agreement. So there's lots of areas that are looked at in terms of the due diligence and taking care of in regarding the assignment of the caretaking agreement. When we talk about that, as we said, it's very important to look at the current status of the common property. So if you have, and usually the transaction occurs, is, remember, your on-site manager, your caretaker, your resident unit manager is a lot owner within your body corporate. And typically they write to your body corporate manager, so it's your relationship manager's capital, and they give notice of the contract has been signed, the contract of sale, and that it's conditional upon the consent of the body corporate. And although it should be a request, sometimes it comes a bit more in the form of a demand that the body corporate committee hold a committee meeting and they consent to the assignment process. Yesterday, we received a notification from one of our body corporate managers on the 6th of July, and it was written to the body corporate manager confirming that the settlement of the caretaking, the settlement of the sale of the caretaking agreements would be the 10th of July, 4 days notice. Sometimes that's the type of pressure that's attempted to put through in terms of the committees in dealing with that. Is it reasonable that you consider an assignment process in 4 days? No, of course not. The legislation is very specific. You are given, as the committee, 30 days to carry out your due diligence from the date you receive all the relevant information. So that's the date you receive all relevant information to do with an assignment process. And the on-site manager, the resident unit manager, is an important component. They're a large stakeholder within your body corporate. you shouldn't feel pressure to take that time to carry out that proper due diligence. And as part of that due diligence, of course, is looking at the current status of the common property, as we said, and the interview process. Of you who have current caretakers, who was involved in the interview process?
The other thing I was going to say, we've been burnt twice with on-site managers coming in that they've had a health issue. The last time we actually got medical, medical reports to prove that they were fit and healthy, and that was excellent.
That's right. There's no issue in terms of asking for that. That's covered in part of their experience and their character and their ability to carry out that. It's part of the due diligence which should be carried out. At the moment, we have a significant influx from China in terms of international people wanting to carry out or seeing these as good business opportunities. Sometimes their English is very good, sometimes the English is very poor. If you're an English-speaking committee member and you're providing directions which are either in email in English or verbally in English, and it's very difficult for the physical on-site manager to understand that's going to create a problem. Okay. So there has been situations where, as part of the assignment process, interpreters have been obtained, as well as independent facilities management companies, and paid for by the outgoing manager. These are not costs paid for by the body corporate, to do that education process so there's a clear understanding of what are the duties. That doesn't mean necessarily teaching those persons English, but it's going through and showing them what is the committee's expectation pursuant to the caretaking agreement. And that's part of the handover process. And yes, that's very right, medical reports is very important because health issues are a key factor. There is a specific part regarding the transfer fee which relates to health issues, where a transfer fee is not payable if it can be shown that there's due financial hardship or substantial health issues that requires that on-site manager to sell on. So the body corporate is not entitled to claim a transfer fee, which if it's sold in a very short period of time, you are entitled to. The interview process is very important, particularly if you've been a body corporate that, as we said before, as Sue said, been burnt or had issues or concerns regarding your previous caretaker. The interview process is essential because that's your opportunity to set the expectations and asking and documenting all of those relevant questions. Once you've gone through an interview process, and for the people who have been involved in an assignment before, did you feel as though there was an immediate expectation upon you to say yes straight away? Yep, that's fine, no problems. Yes, over there. Yep. Okay. That's not what should happen. The interview process is not the formal committee meeting. The interview process is the interview process to gather that information as to is this the correct and proper appropriate person for you to have as the caretaker for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years regarding your building. Then a formal committee meeting can be held, or by way of VOC, to approve, or if you have concerns, what would you do? As part of the assignment process, if you sat down and you had an interview process and you had some concerns, where do you think is the best place to raise those concerns or steps to take? Because that's right. And it may be that you as the committee want to suspend that interview process. Thank you very much. We thank you very much for coming in. We've received lots of information for you today. We have a few little concerns which we need to address with our legal representation on behalf of the body corporate, and we're going to talk to them and then we'll get back to you. It may be that we would want to have a second interview with you to address those questions. And at that second interview process, it may be at that time that you might want a facilities management company, so someone who has expertise in doing these interviews, with you to assist you in answering some of those questions. Now, if you are very unsure, but it's just that feeling, that's the process where we use because it creates the reasonableness for the committee to say, I'm sorry, you're not the suitable person.
How far can you go with querying the finances of the transaction?
You can review 3 years of tax returns we look at. We often, because in a caretaker, often it's the creation of a shelf company And it's that company and arrangement or partnership arrangement has been created solely for the purpose of purchasing that caretaking agreement. There's been no experience before, no history, no financial transactions with respect to that company. So we go back and look at the individuals. We look at the individuals. And obviously as part of that, you ask for personal guarantees. They have to personally sign the caretaking agreement. You don't want an agreement with just a self-company that's not going to exist in 5 years' time. You want a personal relationship with those individuals who have assets and who are capable of, if something does go wrong, to be responsible to take care of that problem.
And
Personal guarantees are common.
And the purchase price?
The purchase price is irrelevant to the body corporate. We're not a party to that. So outgoing purchaser, who's your current on-site manager, new purchaser coming in. I mean, we can always look and look at some ads in the real estate agents and the management rights agents who have brokered that deal. But that contractual relationship is not involving the body corporate. The body corporate is a third party to that, where its only responsibility is to look at the consent for the assignment process. And you only give that consent if you are 100% sure that you've either got steps in place where you can manage the education and manage the experience of the new caretaker coming in, or that you're 100% sure that they're going to be suitable, or that you can manage that process. So the purchase price is not something that a body corporate would ever know, and there's no need to know. The purchase price is irrelevant to the body corporate.
If the purchase price was high, and you were actually thinking about the people that are buying into the property, and you're saying, I think that's quite high to make it work.
You can ask those questions about their financial circumstances. Obviously, we're paying you a salary. There's your caretaker's salary. You need to look at that salary and look at the hours that are involved in doing the duties that are required pursuant to the caretaking agreement, and to make sure that you have the appropriate income and the ability to service that loan. They're type of questions that you can ask during the interview process and require them to show documentation of their financial circumstances that they do have the ability to service that. Which is different.
Something that the bank would be doing as well.
Yeah, the bank should be doing that. Previously, if we went back 10 years, we had a time where management rights were very high and very inflated values, and as a consequence of that, there was a significant amount of lending. Between 80 and 100% of the whole purchase price was loaned, was borrowed. And that has created an entire situation for the mortgagees. They're really coming out of that now, and they're much more careful in terms of their financial arrangements. So we probably won't see that happen again unless we go through that other type of boom period again.
With the manager's contract, where you're talking about duties and everything, where it states no set hours, is that a common theme through?
It can be quite common, and from a body corporate perspective, if there are no set hours, that's not your problem, as in your body corporate problem regarding that. The duties are the duties. Whether it takes your manager 8 hours or 32 hours to do those duties, it's the duties that have to be done. So whether they pay someone else to do the duties, or employ someone, or they hire Jim Mowing or whoever it is to come in and do it, it's the quality of the duties, how they do the duties, and their performance of the duties, which is where your focus needs to be, not the number of hours that are on site. Hours are typically created more from the letting perspective. There's an office, and as a result of that office, there's a management of their letting business that works through that office. A significant complaint we get is so many hours are spent on managing the letting business that no one's out and about looking after the grounds. Sometimes those office hours can work against the body corporate because the body corporate's paying for someone to sit in an office. Yet that's no value to the body corporate in terms of the caretaking of the common property. The office is more used for the value and creating value in the letting business.
As long as I'm the manager.
Yep.
So as long as everything is done as per their
The
contract.
duties.
The duties. Well, that means that they've managed to fulfil.
The obligations
Contract
pursuant to the
duties.
caretaking agreement. That's right. It's the duties which are important, not the hours. It's the duties and responsibilities under the agreement. So, let me jump back to assignments. Sorry, Tom. So, in terms of the assignments, as I said, the interview process, if there are concerns, there is still a perception and a myth that there is no basis upon which a body corporate committee can reasonably refuse an incoming caretaker and say no to the assignment process. There is. There are numerous factors and numerous reasons as to why a body corporate may say no or place conditions, and those conditions can be dealt with prior to settlement as part of the assignment process. And if there is a concern, that's where we find it out, in the interview and through the searches. As we said, if you're concerned about it, you have a second interview. You go back and you get assistance, and that assistance is provided by an expert to take you through that process. Document and information, it is not your job as the committee to review the deeds, the motions, and to make sure they're legally correct. That is not your responsibility. That is the responsibility of the legal team engaged by your body corporate to do it. There is no reason why your body corporate should not have legal representation, no matter what is told to you. Your fees, including the administration fees of capital, as well as the legal fees of your legal representation, are fully paid for by the outgoing manager. So there is no reason why you should not have legal representation for that process. Clicking over top. Variations. Exactly the same situation applies for variation. There seems to be still a little bit of a common theme where I'm the resident unit manager, I'm a lot owner within the body corporate. As a lot owner, I propose a motion. The motion goes on the notice and agenda for the annual general meeting, and all the lot owners just put their hand up and vote yes and give another 5 years. It seems to still happen a little bit like that in a rote process. It shouldn't. A 5-year extension is valuable to the on-site managers. It's valuable to the committee. The variation is drafted by the legal representation of the on-site manager. Anything that is drafted by legal representation on behalf of your manager should always be reviewed by the body corporate carefully and through legal representation. Okay. How's the current performance of the caretaker? Are there some terms of the agreement that we might need to sit down and renegotiate and talk about in terms of that? Do we have a really good relationship and a solid relationship where we can talk about those things with our current manager? And that's what you want to work to. So every time a variation is proposed, that needs to be considered by the committee and by legal advice in terms of looking at that motion or a variation. It may not just be for a term, it might be other variations which are requested through the agreement. But the same rule applies. Your legal costs on behalf of the body corporate regarding those requests are payable by the current manager or the outgoing manager. Okay? Any variations to the agreements are required to go to a general meeting. Okay? But just because it goes to a general meeting and lot owners vote on it, doesn't mean that you, the committee, shouldn't obtain legal advice or expert advice if it's got a facility management component to it. Okay? A request for a variation is actually a very good opportunity because typically in a good relationship what happens is the caretaker or the on-site manager goes to the committee before the budget committee meeting, sits down and says, hi, we've been travelling along really well. I've got some concerns regarding the current agreement because it's now 13 years old. We need to revamp it and update it. Can we sit down and do that together and propose a new agreement to the lot owners? That's how it should work. Okay? Not just coming out of the blue, a motion being put on the agenda. So there are a few things to think about in terms of the variation. Again, deeds, motions, legal advice. A variation is a deed, it's a formal deed. You as committee members do not have skills and expertise to consider formal legal documents. Capital, as your body corporate managers, do not have the legal experience to consider formal legal documents. Get legal advice. Next. Checking the watch. How many minutes?
Another 5 minutes.
Fine. let's just have a look at some of the key issues. That's what we're talking about, assignments and variations, which are very important in dealing with those relationships. The common complaints come up because a committee has been dealing with an on-site manager or a caretaker and the relationship is broken down. The whole point is to create a relationship right from the beginning, so either from the assignment process where that new manager has been introduced in, and you create that relationship where there's equal footing between the parties like there should be on a contractual document. And you discuss what are our expectations, what are your expectations as the on-site manager, and how are we going to work through to make our building sparkle. Because that's what you want. Common complaints, length of term. I have a 25-year caretaking agreement. I wasn't even involved in this building when that agreement was created. How can we get out of it? The answer to that is normally pretty simple. No. Okay? No point fighting about it, no point wasting money, no point getting all heated about it. The answer is usually no. The original developer's not silly. They created a scheme which was very, very tight and valuable. And normally, and let's deal with the 80% of the buildings that we have out there, those big high-rise residential buildings, or even buildings where we're talking 40 to 50 lots on group titles, they need caretakers. They need on-site managers. They need those relationships because people want the security of it. People want someone there to manage the correct process and manage the caretaking. And there are plenty of buildings where it works well. The 20% is the problem. I mean, what's the point of having a 25-year caretaking agreement on a commercial building that has 22 lots? No reason whatsoever. No value. But when you look at it, so check if the contract's valid. Have options been exercised? A significant proportion of the litigation which has occurred to date is as a result of on-site managers failing to exercise their options. You don't exercise your option, the contract's at an end. End of story. It is non-negotiable. Okay? The body corporate should know these timeframes and these options very carefully, and the on-site managers should know these timeframes and these options very carefully as well. It is a valued contractual document. Read it, understand it. It's your most expensive item in the whole of your body corporate as well.
Easily misinterpreted by people picking bits and pieces out of it though.
Easily, that's exactly right. So
Very
it's a matter of reading it and understanding the whole concept of it. Not those vague references such as, you will use your best endeavours to keep clean the common property.
Or
I don't know what that means.
Five-star standard.
Make to a 5-star standard, that's right. I don't know what that means.
Know what 5 stars.
I'm not the Marriott. I'm not the Marriott. I just want it clean and tidy, and I want people to live here, and I want people to be happy. And the nitpicking doesn't help. That's where committees get themselves into trouble. Salary. Salary review clauses are a big problem. There are often ratchet clauses in the caretaking agreement. A ratchet clause is, this is the current salary, and the salary will increase by CPI, but the salary can never be less than what it was the previous year. That's a ratchet clause, so that the salary will only ever increase. The worst ratchet clause I've seen is an 8% increase. So every single year there was an 8% increase with the caretaking agreement. It took a long time to get rid of that. Okay. We don't see a lot of them these days, but under the original budget, we did.
Did that occur from the actual building? Or for
The original developer put it in place. Yeah. So they were bound by it. So salaries. Salary reviews are very important. Each annual year, your committee should sit down as part of your budget meeting and talk with your on-site manager, your caretaker, about the salary review. Look, we're happy with the performance. Your salary, it talks CPI. We're happy for you to have a CPI increase. Can we confirm that? Okay? Because it may be in some circumstances that the manager says, oh no, you know what, actually I'm not really happy with just CPI. I would like a formal salary review to occur. If that occurs, then you need proper independent experts to help you. You need facility management experts who specialise in the area to assist you in that process. That is not a process that you do by yourselves. Okay? So salary review clauses are very important to be read and understood. Stuck with salary clauses, you're stuck with them. You can't change them. Unless there's a negotiated result, you're stuck with them and you have to work with that salary review clause.